Hello and welcome to episode 52 of the Epic Classroom Podcast. My name is Trevor Muir and I like to talk about teaching, whether it's stories and ideas from my own classrooms or lessons I've learned from other educators. I love to explore ways to help students grow and thrive in school, but also for their educators to thrive as well. And so that's what this podcast is. Whatever you teach or however you serve in schools, how can you lead a more impactful, dynamic, meaningful, and epic classroom? Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. It is so good to be here at my public library where they have a little podcast room where I get to record a little podcast for you. So I am so excited that you're here. Thanks for listening to the show. If this is your very first episode, I'd welcome. Well, I'm glad you're listening. There's 51 other episodes, so feel free to check those out. If you listen to these often, how fun. Thanks for also tuning into this one. I have had the opportunity the last few weeks to just travel all over the place. And that's going to kind of connect into what I'm going to talk about in a moment here. But I've had a lot of fun. I've gotten to go to Phoenix, Arizona a couple times in the last month, which is funny because I've never been to Arizona once in my entire life. And then I've gone to two separate places in Phoenix in the last month. And then I've been in Portland, Oregon, at the A4LE Learningscapes Conference, which was so much fun getting to do an opening keynote for a couple thousand engineers and architects and school planners and not all educators, but people who create the spaces for educators to work in and for students to learn in. And so that was an absolute blast. I was in Indiana last week. We're going to go down to Massachusetts next week to be with some teachers. So I've been getting around, and that's got me thinking about the state of things right now. So I am recording this on, it is Wednesday, October 30th, and I'm going to try to get it out today. So maybe you're listening to it on the 30th. Maybe it's Halloween right now. Maybe you're dressed up and looking quite goofy. Whatever it is, next Tuesday is Election Day, at least here in America. If you're listening overseas, you probably know about it too, or maybe that's arrogant of me to assume that. But yeah, if you live in America, you know, or the United States of America, you know that Tuesday is the big election day, and it is everywhere. I mean, there is so much news and media and talk and social media and discussion about what is coming up right now. And if you're like me, you're feeling it, right? Like you're quite aware that this is happening, and it seems to be the topic of conversation. It's dominating social media. It's dominating the news. It's dominating the headlines. It's all over the place. And you know what's so interesting? As we approach this, you can feel the contention, right? Like there is this divisiveness that is running rampant right now. It's all about, all right, everybody get to your sides, and we are fighting, and we're going to see who wins this fight. And Tuesday is the day of the big battle. And yet, if you live here in the United States, you're also quite aware that, nope, the battle is not going to be over on Tuesday. There is going to continue to be this contention and divisiveness and battles that are going to take place after Tuesday, when it's about who won, who didn't win. Did they win fairly? Did they not win fairly? Let's throw more mud. Let's continue to call names. So there's just a lot going on, and it is in the air, and it's apparent, and I thought we should talk about it. You know, there is a loud sentiment all over the internet, and I've heard it plenty of times in person too, from friends and family and acquaintances, this notion that, the world is burning down right now, right? Like this is the worst things have ever been. The country is burning down. Nothing is going good, and it's all kind of just reaching this boiling point, and everything is just kind of falling apart. So we've heard that a lot. We've been hearing it from both sides of political parties. We've been hearing it from pundits. We've seen it all over the place. Maybe you have family members who are just very doom and gloom about it all, and I understand why. The algorithm is pushing more and more content that's got people feeling this way, right? Like the social media is creating lots and lots of this sentiment that it's all just falling apart and there's nothing good and it's all negative. And the reason I bring that up is there's a number of things, but I just want to say this. Last week I was in Indiana, And I was with a group of teachers there, and I learned of one of the teachers realized that their school doesn't have a recycling program. So they don't recycle anything for this whole school district. And what she decided to do is create a whole project for her students to collect all the recycled goods in the school and then create a whole system for the recycling service in their city to recycle the things from their school. So all of a sudden, the school that didn't have a recycling program is all of a sudden recycling, and it's working, and people are bought in, and students are bought in, and teachers are bought in, and it's really changing the community. This is happening at a little public school down in Indiana. I got to go to Tempe, Arizona, right outside of Phoenix, a couple weeks ago. And it was like this big teacher conference, and they had this big courtyard outside of the school, and there had to be 500-600 teachers there, and they were blasting the song Jesse's Girl, like the 80s music was just blasting through the speakers. And there was like 500-600 elementary teachers playing cornhole and bag toss and throwing a frisbee and laughing and eating barbecue and listening to 80s music and dancing during a school PD day. 2 nights ago, on Monday night, I got to speak at a Young Life banquet. And I don't know if you know what the Young Life is, but essentially there's a bunch of volunteers in our communities all over the country and world, and they spend their time showing up and listening and spending time with our adolescents, winning the right to be heard and investing in their lives and helping them learn and grow. And they're doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. And I got to just be around these unbelievable people who are giving their energy and their creativity and their time to helping teenagers grow and find success. And the reason I share these stories is because I go to a lot of different places. And every time I come home, my wife asks how the trip was. And I'm telling you, every time I genuinely say, that was the best group of people I've ever been around. And then I come back from somewhere else. I'm like, nope, actually, that is the best group of people I've been around. And then I come back and I'm like, wait, actually, they were having so much fun, or they talked so passionately about their work, or they were gushing about their students. That is the best group of people I've been around. And every time my wife laughs at me because she's like, you always say that. I'm like, I know, I can't help it. Every time I go and I join these groups of people and get to spend real time with them, I realize there is good stuff happening all over the place. Another way of putting it, I don't think it's all burning down. Listen, I know the world's got its problems right now. It always has, by the way, right? If you study enough history, you'll see, oh no, there's always been issues and problems. We're not whistling past the graveyard. There's always been issues, and there are now. And yet I am just so acutely aware from my experiences getting to go to so many different places, getting to go to cities, getting to go to out in the country and rural areas, getting to go into suburbia, going all over the place, going to the Southwest and the Northeast and the Northwest and the Midwest and Florida and all over the place. There is just goodness and good people all over the place. And so this is what I think. I don't think if one side gets elected and the other doesn't, or if that other side gets elected and the other doesn't on Tuesday, that the world is just going to burn down. I think there's still way too much goodness. There's way too many good people still doing their thing in this world. I think a lot of it is media. I think a lot of it is social media. I think a lot of it is politics. And I think we all know this. I'm not a political commentator. But what I do want to point out is that I don't believe this narrative that it's all falling apart. I've witnessed it too many places. I've seen students do too many amazing things in spite of everybody saying, oh, students aren't doing anything good anymore. Or I hear too much about the negativity of teachers and schools, and yet I go to so many teachers and schools and I witness beautiful, beautiful work happening. And so that just gives me hope. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, do I have my own political opinions? Sure. And do I want certain things to prevail and certain people to win and all that kind of thing? Yeah, of course I do. I'm absolutely active in that. And yet I'm also aware that I don't think the world's burning down. So call me an optimist, but I don't think that's what the case is. But the reason I want to bring all of this up is, one, hopefully you can buy into that a little bit, right? Like maybe breathe through this. And if it's a stressful time as we approach Tuesday, and you worry about it all, it's like, I don't know, maybe we just need to find a posture that says, you know what, despite all of it, in spite of all of it, I'm going to continue to do what I do in my work as an educator. I'm going to continue to show up for kids, do my very best to give them opportunities to succeed, find joyful learning experiences for them, and we're going to keep moving forward. But here's the thing. All of this noise, all of this division, all of this animosity, this sentiment that it's all burning down, I think it's really affecting students. I think it's quite apparent that all of this noise is making its way into our young people. You know, I put out a survey on my Facebook and Instagram pages, the Epic Classroom, recently, and I asked teachers if they've noticed any type of uptick or increase in mean-spirited or divisive behavior in their students. I was very curious what the response would be from that, because I can tell you when I go out in person and I talk to teachers, I often hear that sentiment. I've heard it quite a bit lately, like, oh my gosh, students are just like, they're saying meaner things. There's just like this attitude, there's this entitlement, there's this anger, there's just this rudeness and putting each other down more than we've seen in the past. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's a correlation between that behavior and what's in the air right now, this divisive political season. So I surveyed hundreds of teachers. I surveyed thousands of teachers, and hundreds of teachers responded. And over 90% of respondents said they have seen a definite uptick in mean-spirited, divisive behavior in their students lately. They've seen all these things that we're describing here. And I'm guessing if you're an educator and you're listening to this right now, there's a 90+% chance that you're like, yep, I've seen it too. And honestly, I think there's a lot behind this. I think there's social media behind this. I think it starts in the home and parenting, but also I think it's connected to this season that we're in right now. I think it's connected to what's going on and what's happening on Tuesday next week. Kids are watching. Kids absorb what they're seeing. They're modeling the tone that is being set by adults. And their behavior is communicating that. And we're seeing it in schools. And they're watching the tone and the posture of adults that they have towards each other. They're watching the negative posture adults have, and they're also watching the positive, hopeful posture that adults hold. And so I think the call to action for all of us is to figure out, how can I model the way we want people to be existing and living in the world right now during times like this? Like, I can choose to give in to the negativity and wear the stress on my sleeve, or talk dirty about whatever side I'm not on, and I can get all worked up about it. And it's like, you know what? There's a time and a place to getting worked up. But I'm telling you, our students watch how we do it, right? Like an old friend of mine named AJ Sherrill, he's written about and talked about how what we believe is just, or how we hold what we believe is just as impactful as what we believe. Does that make sense? Right? Like, what we believe is important, but how we hold it, the posture we have with our beliefs and with our feelings, is just as impactful. And I think students are picking up on that from adults. And so I think one of our roles as educators right now is not necessarily to like engage with every issue. Instead, I think it's to model what it looks like to be calm and reasonable in a time where a lot of other people are not modeling calm and reason, right? Like, and I think that means not just ignoring the negativity that's going on, but showing like, hey, you know what? Regardless what happens, I'm going to keep showing up to work. And I'm going to keep being excited about reading and writing and math and science. I'm going to keep doing that. And I'm going to continue to invest in the relationship we have in this classroom with each other, your peers, and the relationship I have with you, my students. I'm going to keep doing that. And I would encourage you to do the same thing. And also, I think we also have to point out the good that is happening in the world. As I said, and I know I'm not alone in this, I've witnessed so much good in our society lately. I think things are a lot better than sometimes they appear. And I think we have to share that good news. Maybe instead of just doing current events on the negative happenings in our society and world, maybe we need to spend some more time sharing some good news happening in the world. I mean, do you remember during the COVID pandemic when John Krasinski, Jim from The Office, had that web show that was all just about sharing good news, and it went wildly viral, and millions of people were tuning in to watch Jim from The Office share about good things happening in the world. It's like, yeah, sometimes we just have to be reminded that there's still good happening. It's woven into all of it. And so maybe that's something you can do with students. Share more good news. Celebrate with them. Celebrate their lives. One of my favorite activities, and I've talked about it on the podcast before, is kicking off a learning time, kicking off class by having students simply share good things. And listen, I know you have a finite amount of time with students. And so maybe it's, hey, every student has 3 seconds to share something good in their life, right? Like, I won my soccer game. It's my mom's birthday. Kids love to tell you when it's their mom's birthday. Or, hey, I got an A on my test. Or me and my friend found a really funny song. Or, hey, I beat Fortnite last night. Don't care. But anyway, let them create space to let them share about good things going on, which is doing a lot. It's allowing students to learn to share about their own lives. So it's creating that comfortable atmosphere and space. It's also them getting to verbalize the goodness that is happening around us. And I think we have to point it out. It's not being pointed out by the news. It doesn't seem to be pointed out by many politicians right now. It's not being pointed out by a lot of adults in our society. It's all about the doom and gloom and things are burning down. And it's like, all right, well, then maybe we need to point out the goodness that is going on. And so I think it's about celebrating. And I think we just have to model calm. I think we can't let politics and media dictate how we feel, and as a result, how our students feel. I think we just have to have practices that keep ourselves calm. And that's a whole different episode, but I don't know, just touching on it. Maybe it's creating silence and space. Maybe it's using, I found this great tool. It was like $45. It's called Brick. I have no affiliation with them. I've just been using it lately, and I'm obsessed. It's like this little plastic magnet that I've got an app on my phone, and when I scan my phone against that app, it locks down all of the apps in my phone that I don't want to have access to at certain times. So I go and I scan it, and it shuts down Facebook and Instagram and X, and it shuts down my email. I can go and select what I want it to shut down, and it goes and selects all that down, but it does keep like Google Maps open and messaging and my phone. So it basically makes my iPhone into a flip phone with podcasting and music still. So it keeps the things I want, but then it shuts everything else down. And the only way to unlock those apps is to go and scan that little brick again. And so like if me and my kids are going to go out on a hike, but I still need to stay connected with people. Like I need to be able to get a hold of people if I need something. I'll go and scan the brick. Now I cannot go and get connected to all that negativity. I can't go into the grocery store and stand in line, and instead of just like observing and being present in the world, I go and I open and I doom scroll, and I go and hear about all the negative things happening and get all angry and worked up just as the algorithm designed it to. I can't do that because my phone is locked up. But then when I'm ready to veg out or whatever it is, I can go and scan that brick, and I'm back at it. And I'm telling you, it has been a game changer for me. Right now, as I record this podcast, I cannot get on any social media. I cannot check my email. All I can do is be right here, right now. And so that's like a practice that has helped me during this divisive, negative political season, because I just can't consume as much as I would if I had access. I think also just creating time to be disconnected, meditating or praying or hiking or finding time away from the noise. Also, I think in the classroom, I think we can create spaces for good discussion, not debates, but discussion, right? Helping students learn, how do we talk about some of this stuff? How do we disagree kindly? How do we hear each other's opinions and maybe flex our own opinions or firm up our own opinions, saying, you know what? I've heard other people. I like the way I think about this. Great. So I think we can create spaces to do that. We just have to teach students how to do that. And so I don't think we have to shy away from the difficult stuff. Instead, I think we need to have a posture towards kindness and empathy when we talk about all of this, because the kids are watching. They're watching you. If you are an educator, whether you are a school leader or a teacher or a parapro or a bus driver or a front office staff or whatever you do to serve schools, students, you hold a captive audience of your students. They are watching you. And if you have this positive demeanor, if not a toxically positive, like, hey guys, put on a happy face even though things are tough, but instead a hopeful, like, hey, you know what? yeah, there's tough things going on, but there's also goodness. And I want to find more and more of that in the stuff that we do together. If that's your demeanor, students are going to model that as well. That's why I think that we're seeing so much negative, mean-spirited behavior in schools, because kids are modeling what they're seeing from adults in their lives. And so let's find more ways to model the other way of doing this. Listen, my friends, whether one party gets elected or another party gets elected on Tuesday, or if you're listening to this after the election and you just wanted to catch up, hey, I bet the world's still spinning. I bet there's still really good things happening in your own community, in your own families, in our world. And we just have to look for it, and we can teach students to do the same thing. So that's what I tell my kids. Hey, regardless what happens on Tuesday, I'm talking about my own children, Jack and Pipe. Regardless what happens on Tuesday, still going to love you. We're still going to go on adventures. We're still going to find ways to do really cool things in this world. And that's what we do. So anyway, my friends, thanks for listening to this podcast. A little different, a little less pedagogy, a little bit more current events, but I like talking about it. So thanks for diving in. There are, I've got some resources on the election. I will try to link them into the podcast here. I didn't finish them enough in time, but maybe just can help you hold good discussions with your students. I will put that in the link here. If you want to learn about some more ways that we can connect, feel free to go to my website, trevormuir.com. If you are interested in me coming to speak with your staff and work with teachers who you work alongside of, to talk about a whole host of different things, you can go to my website, trevormuir.com/speaking, where you can learn more about my topics and then get in touch. Would love to come your way. So that's it. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your week and find lots and lots of joy between now and Tuesday and long after. So this is the Epic Classroom Podcast, and my name is Trevor Muir. I will talk to you next time.